This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we continue our spring sports previews with men's lacrosse, baseball, and tennis. Plus, Bates Alpine skiing senior captain Nic Hotermans represented Belgium at the World Championships in Austria last week. We caught up with him to chat about what it was like to ski in front of 20,000 people. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The women's basketball team is on a roll heading into the NESCAC tournament, having won 6 straight NESCAC games. The Bobcats defeated Connecticut College 68-54 on Friday and followed that up with a 62-46 win over Tufts on Sunday. They called it the Rose Ceremony, as the Bobcats honored their lone senior, Alexandra Long, otherwise known as A. Rose, before Sunday's big victory over Tufts. Then, after the win, Long joined us live for an interview. She is the senior captain, Alexandra Long, 12 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks on your senior day. First of all, tell me about the experience, having your family here, the pregame ceremony. What was it all like from your perspective?
I have such a special community. I have an excellent village, and I think they showed out today, even on a break, which is amazing. So much of my family here, obviously repping their shirts. My teammates doing the same. It's horrifying to see my face so many times, but other than that, the support is palpable, and I just appreciate them so much.
Yeah, the cardboard cutouts weren't too much of a distraction.
No, I was locked in still.
To get this win in pretty convincing fashion,
Yep.
What does that mean heading into the NESCAC tournament?
It's just another great win under our belt because, obviously we started out how we did. We've been on kind of this winning streak, and this team has been doing the same. They've dug themselves out of a nice hole this season, and so to be able to have that win, especially against them, who is kind of running the similar boat that we are, it just feels really great.
Today you got the ball early and often. Was that the game plan?
Maybe it's never drawn up, but sometimes that's just how it happens.
What are your thoughts, headed to Amherst for the NESCAC quarterfinal?
I'm excited. Obviously, I think the first time we got to play there this season didn't show our best stuff from start to finish, and so I'm excited for another opportunity against them, absolutely. Any
other thoughts you want to share about this senior day?
For people who aren't here, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. Some of you are my family, so I want to shout you out. But my alums are here right now, nearly everyone I've played with, and just that's what it's really all about, and I just really appreciate that from everyone.
The women's basketball team is 16-8 overall on the year and is the number 5 seed in the NESCAC tournament. Their battle with number 4 seed Amherst at Amherst begins at 2 p.m. on Saturday. You can, of course, watch live online with the link at gobatesbobcats.com. Meanwhile, the men's basketball team took a second nationally ranked opponent to overtime, but ultimately fell just short against number 14 Tufts in their season finale on Saturday. The Bobcats finished their season with 10 wins, their most since the 2019-20 campaign. Before we preview some spring sports, the indoor track and field season is rolling right along, and records seem to be falling every week. This time it was the Bates men's record in the mile, as junior Ross Tejeda ran the event in 4 minutes, 7.55 seconds at Friday's Valentine Invitational. His time breaks a school record that had stood for 41 years. And Ross Tejeda is our male Bobcat of the week. Well, Ross, first of all, I know you've been chasing that mile record for a while. What was it like finally crossing that finish line to beat a record that had stood, for 41 years?
It was an incredibly surreal experience. We've been training hard all year, but I'm really excited to, finally be able to say that I did that, get it out of the way, move on to the next one.
Take us through the race and kind of how it went, what your approach was.
Yeah, well, there was 16 guys racing, so it was a pretty packed race, especially at BU. And it was actually an incredibly physical race. I got spiked a ton, and a couple of people tripped up a bit, including myself, but I was eventually able to rally. I like to think that my sheer anger from the race just kind of pushed me through the end of the finish line, and I was able to just kind of, make it happen. It was an incredible... I didn't know until after I crossed the line that I had broken the record when I looked up at the board and I saw the time. But, yeah, it was great.
So you mentioned you got spiked a little bit or a lot, and tripped also?
Yes, yeah. Because, the race started off really congested. There was a lot of guys kind of trying to push and shove and trying to get to that front spot. I was able to collect myself, and then I eventually, that first lap around, I got boxed in, and I was probably third to last for a while. Then I had to kind of like step out to lane 2 and pick it up with a couple other guys, and we were able to rally ourselves up front. But ultimately, you know, it was a very physical race.
I know that is a particularly fast track, but it sounds like you have more in you in terms of lowering that time even further, because it sounds like not everything went perfectly, right?
yeah, I mean, that's what I like to think. I'm looking forward to seeing if I could lower it a bit more. But ultimately, that was kind of my goal for the race going into it. I kind of tried to add that pressure onto myself just to see if I could make it happen. I'm glad that we did.
Yeah, I was looking at the times at BU. I mean, there's so many different heats, honestly, so many different sections of the mile. I mean, so many Division I guys breaking 4 minutes. What was it like to watch other guys, you know, do what they do?
Oh, well, that was just incredibly exciting. The first heat alone was just awesome to watch. When we eventually got to my heat, like the entire facility was just roaring, and it was the perfect vibe for me to just go out there and perform, do the best that I could. I mean, I knew I was running with incredible guys, so just to kind of be there, I knew that some of that greatness would rub off on me, and I would eventually do what I do.
It's interesting it was so physical and stuff, because it's not like a championship meet where like you're trying to score points for your team or anything, because it's a non-scoring thing, but people are, I guess, really determined to get those fast times when they had the chance, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, my heat specifically had a lot of D3 guys.
Okay.
So it was, everyone kind of knew everyone at that point, and we all kind of want to hold on to that national qualifier, kind of remain in that top 20. So
right.
I could kind of understand why the physicality was occurring. So I kind of had that in mind going into it.
So you're firmly in the top 20, right? You're like 16th, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you think you'll be running the mile again before we get to, nationals, or do you think that might be doing it for you?
Well, I certainly want to run the mile again. Mm-hmm. We have New England's coming up in 2 weeks.
Okay, right.
So I'll have, I'll be able to train over this upcoming weekend, and then coming up at New England's, I'll probably run the DMR, or the 800 of the mile. So I'm kind of deciding between all those three. I just have to dialogue with my coach to see what we have.
Sure. Well, you mentioned the DMR.
Yeah.
You guys got to run the DMR the very next day, right, at Tufts on a flat track. One of the first chances I think we've had for the DMR this year. Top 20 in the country, but what do you need for DMR to make nationals?
For DMR, I mean, we didn't really run as well, but we probably need like a 950.
Okay, so a little bit lower.
Yeah, a little bit lower. We have some really good talent this year. Mm-hmm. We have a freshman, shout out to Nathaniel, and Rob's what we call him on the team. He's a young freshman, ran a 4.11 a couple weeks back, and he'll probably be like our 1200 leg. So we have like a lot of great up-and-coming talent. I mean, our 800, I don't know if you know, it's like top 3 right now in the country for our 800. So I'm just looking forward to see what we can do as a collective.
Yeah, because last year you were the 1200 leg.
Yeah.
And this year, if you run it, you'll be the mile, probably, the anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how's that change things for you? It's a little bit longer, but...
Definitely a little bit longer. I mean, at Tufts, I didn't really run the best race. I wasn't as fast as I would have liked. But I think just, again, I mean, it's the exact same philosophy that I had last year. Having a group of guys that I could, we could rally ourselves, and these are also like some of my bestest friends on campus, so it just makes the experience that much more rewarding.
You guys have a little home meet this Saturday. Are you going to be participating in that at all, or is it more for guys trying to qualify for New England's?
Yeah, it's more of a qualifier meet, so I'll probably just be training.
Just training, yeah. Watching guys in action, perhaps.
Yes,
I mean, speaking of like some of your teammates, I mean, we've had Truman Williams on a lot. What's it like to see what he's been able to do this year? Because that's so cool to have him be one of the best sprinters ever here at Bates, right?
Truman Williams, for those who don't know, he's a fast runner, but he's also an incredible person. Just super funny, incredibly sarcastic, and just a great energy to have on the team. And he's a great leader. He's one of our captains. So just happy to be, again, just surrounded by greatness, and hopefully him and I can sort of push each other. I mean, every time we've already kind of built a relationship through the All-American run that we had last year. So just looking forward to building that relationship, and hopefully he could keep breaking records and I can do the same. Yeah,
you mentioned the DMR, maybe you guys want to go a little faster than you did at Tufts. I mean, what's going to be the key to putting together another, possible All-American group?
I think the key is just going to be hitting our splits. I think when we're at practice, Coach Feldman's doing a great job, specifically, with the 800, 1200, 1600 leg, of just making sure that we're hitting our splits and making us feel confident. I mean, at the end of the day, the DMR is just a mental game. I think that we all have the fitness to hit the splits that we want. It's just a matter of rallying together, having a good day collectively, and executing.
Great. And then I guess, thoughts you want to mention on, the Valentine Invitational and how it went, and because obviously there were a lot of fast times for the team in general sort of there. Kind of a crazy weekend, right? Lots of different meets all over the place.
Yeah, all over the place. We had some really great performances. Cal Porter, shout out to Cal Porter, running, I think it was like a 4:13 that he ran. Incredible. He's had a great year this year, and just happy to see that he kind of balled out this meet. I understand that BU can be a very intimidating place, especially for some of the freshman guys too. So I'm excited to see that we have such a strong up-and-coming group of freshman guys, sophomore guys.
Ross Tejeda, our male Bobcat of the week. Again, his time in the mile, 4 minutes, 7.55 seconds, breaking a record that was set back in 1984 here at Bates. What a job here this weekend. Ross, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
Women's swimming and diving finished 8th at last week's NESCAC Championships, and sophomore Sarah Palmer had a meet to remember, breaking not one, but 2 school records. She broke the Bates mark in the 100-yard breaststroke with a time of 1 minute, 2.86 seconds, and she broke her own record at the 200-yard breaststroke in 2 minutes, 17.46 seconds. Palmer also swam a lifetime best split in the 400-yard medley relay, helping the Bobcats achieve an NCAA B-cut time. Then that puts a trip to NCAAs into the realm of possibility. And Sarah Palmer is our female Bobcat of the week. Well, Sarah, first of all, the NESCAC Championships, your second trip, obviously, to that. Tell me about the experience sort of overall, competing in so many events over 3 to 4 days, basically.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely was different than last year. I thought that I had a more, calm mindset about it because I was a sophomore, so I knew, the vibes that it was, I was going into. So yeah, I really enjoyed going into it as a sophomore, knowing the events each day, how I'm gonna feel at the end of a meet, a 4-day meet. So I was very prepared, doing ice baths and doing a massage gun and just rolling out and preparing for how I'm gonna feel on that very last session.
Excellent. And then on day 2, or basically the first full day, you had the 400-yard medley relay, and that group, which includes yourself, you all swam lifetime best splits. You got 6th place out of 22 teams, and your time was an NCAA B cut. So very exciting. Take us through that relay in particular, what you saw from your perspective going in the breaststroke leg.
Yeah, so we've all worked really hard for this chance, and before that we were all just we got into a huddle and we were we got this, guys. We just had to remind ourselves we've worked so hard all season. This moment is meant for us. And so Aaron, the backstroker, was coming in, and I just remember before that I was I just have to do everything how I planned it. We do this all year long. So I remember I swam it, and I honestly did not feel the best. I remember I was oh my god, or I'm doing it. And then I finished, and then Emma Burke swam. She swam her best 100 fly leg, and then Stephanie Tropper swam. And when we finished, we saw our time, and we were all just super duper happy.
You have an opportunity possibly to go to NCAAs, but you may have to cut a little more time off, right?
Yeah, it's definitely up in the air. We're still waiting to hear from Coach Casares about that. I know that we all are very excited about our time that we went, but of course, the NESCAC and then all of Division III, everyone's times are just so fast this year. So it's very competitive. And
then for you, you swam B cuts and school records, I should say, also in the 100 breast and the 200 breast and individual events the next couple of days there. I mean, you're preparing for these different breaststroke lengths, whether it be the 50 on the Friday along with the 100 as part of the medley, and then 100, 200. How do you kind of prepare distance-wise? Because you're doing a variety of distances with the same stroke, though.
That definitely comes back to just practice. I just remember anytime we do I'd go into a practice, I would have to remind myself, okay, now it's a 50, so I have to move my arms faster. Now it's a 200, and my coach always says to me for 200, lengthen your stroke out, because I always try to rush it and go really fast, because it's definitely hard to navigate going between the 50 to the 200.
Yeah.
For sure.
And how about the 100? I mean, that was not your record previously. You broke your own record in the 200, but you broke Abigail Gibbons' record in the 100. Take us through that race in particular, because that's a big deal. That record had stood for a few years.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my goals, was to break that record. So I tried to just go as fast as I could in prelims so I could make it back to the A finals. And I planned my race out very strategically. I just tried to stay as strong and powerful as I could throughout the whole time, and really worked on my turns and making sure that my underwaters and pullouts and everything were perfect. So once everything all came together, I think just the 102 came out.
Yeah, and people should remember, your prelims time is the time that broke the school record, at least in that event, and then you swam another B cut in the final. Prelims to finals, what are you doing in between kind of to prepare yourself? Because you're in the championship final. I'm sure you don't want to think about it too much. What are you kind of going through mentally and physically there?
Yeah, that's definitely took a lot to figure out like your plan. Like I've been swimming since I was like 8, so it's like what do you do in between this like prelims and finals? So like for me personally, I go back, I hang out with like usually like whoever my roommate is. So this year was Emily Calvadas, and like we go back to the room, we just like debrief about the first session, then we take like a 30-minute nap, and then we just play some hype music and just start dancing in the room.
That's interesting. Just taking a nap between events and everything. Do you feel refreshed after that?
Yeah, I have to limit myself only to 30 minutes though, because I could definitely sleep for like longer, but you can't do that. You have to just take a little nap and then just get right up and just start dancing and like listening to fun music and have all your room, like teammates come in the room and just get ready for the next session. Under
the women's swimming team, you had a chance to honor your 3 seniors at NESCAC. So you had a whole senior event. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, it definitely was very emotional. Last year, like I went to nationals with Steph, so I obviously like have a very close relationship with Steph. She's just been such a great role model. And then Morgan, our other captain, like I had just built a really strong connection with her. Like just seeing her at like Commons and just in all the places on campus, we just have gotten along really well. And then of course we have Tolly, our last senior. Love her. She was abroad for the first semester last year, and like she came back and just I like met her and like I literally was like, oh my god, like this is the sweetest person ever.
So those are obviously the 3 seniors you just mentioned honored there on senior day, and the team in general. We just mentioned there's only 3. It's a young team, right? So what's it been like growing with this team over the course of the season?
We have a lot of freshmen and then a lot of sophomores, so it definitely has been a lot to like we have to make sure we're really good role models for the freshmen, make sure we put them up to high standards to let them know that like everyone on this team matters and it's not just an upperclassman thing. We all matter so importantly to this team. And I think just creating that atmosphere for the freshmen has been very important, and we're just excited for the next incoming freshmen to come in to just like build this really great environment where we just are centered around our team and like everyone is important and valued.
We talked about this before last time you were on, but you're from Brunswick, so you're a Mainer. What's it like, staying home for college, sort of? I mean, just a few miles away from where you grew up.
I personally enjoy it. I know a lot of people like probably don't want to be that close to home, but like I enjoy being this close to home. If I ever need anything or need to go pick up something, but and definitely like Bowdoin, like our rivalry is from Brunswick, so it's interesting, going back to my hometown and like being in the Bowdoin like atmosphere and everything.
Well, any other thoughts you want to share about the NESCAC championships we haven't got to talk about yet? Anything you wanted to mention?
I'm just very proud of everyone. I think we all swam super duper well. We've all worked so hard as a women's team. We didn't have a full roster this year. We only had 22 women going, and we still placed really well at 8th place, and everyone just like swam their hearts out. So I'm just really proud of everyone, and I'm excited to see how we do at Nationals.
Sarah Palmer, our female Bobcat of the week, school record holder in both the 100 breaststroke and the 200 breaststroke, now breaking her own record in the 200 breast there at NESCAC. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Weather permitting, the men's tennis team will officially get spring sports underway Wednesday in Florida when they take on Rollins College at 3 p.m. at the USTA National Campus. Meanwhile, the women's tennis team gets their season underway against St. Leo University Thursday at 9:30 in the morning. Before the teams headed to the Sunshine State, we caught up with men's head coach Paul Gastonguay and women's head coach Deepak Sharma. Paul, just to start off with the men's team, kind of an opportunity to play at the USTA National Campus, practice there as well. Take us through that environment. What's that like down in Florida?
We've been down there for several years now. It's an amazing environment. We have 100 courts to use, so there's plenty of courts to spread out. It's hot. Planes are flying overhead just like the U.S. Open. So it's a great venue and a great atmosphere to train. This year we happen to be playing all of our matches there except for one. Rollins has their own courts, but theirs are under construction, so their home courts are going to be at the USTA National Campus.
Should be exciting. And Deepak obviously got to work with the women's team this fall, got a nice win there over Nichols College in October. But you're starting off the spring season against a bunch of Division II opponents. So what are you hoping to see from your women against these, D2 players?
I think just looking to see them come out and play aggressively, play cohesively, be dynamic. We've been talking about that a lot in practice. So it's a good opportunity to kind of practice at the same level as what we're going to see in the NESCAC. So it's a great way to kind of hit the ground running and see what they've been putting a lot of work right now, doing some great work. So just see if they can implement that and take it from practice into match play, and in a situation where, yeah, it counts and it matters, but they're going to be playing at a very high level, and it'll be good to kind of see them play loose and relaxed and and kind of go for their shots. But dynamic, communicative doubles is kind of what we're looking for there.
And Paul, obviously you've made this trip many times with the team. You've played, I think, Rollins every year since I've been at Bates, and maybe before then also. But I mean, the D2 level compared to the NESCAC, how do you kind of see that compare?
The high level of NESCAC is very comparable. It's Division I level in some cases. So D2 is very strong. There's a lot of international student athletes at these schools, and they're experienced. They're older than our athletes coming in as first years usually. So
right. Okay.
they're really accomplished athletes, and it's a high level conference. Always has the best teams in the country in Division II. We're ready for it. Our guys have been practicing really hard, from what I've heard, and
over the winter. Yeah, right.
And they've come in the best shape they've ever have. They've been lifting with our coach Kaylee in the weight room, and Schmitty. It's like been amazing. They're in the best shape they've ever been.
Excellent. And Deepak, tell us about your two senior captains, Lizzie Frecco and Ava Lyon. What makes them such strong leaders?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we'll start with Lizzie. I mean, she's just such a great competitor. She's a great communicator, very well respected in the locker room, very well respected by myself, as also with the administration. She just is all about the team. She loves the sport of tennis, and then she's just an unbelievable ambassador for Bates College. So I think just all of the things that I look for in a leader, and she does that really, really well, and she's always just cares so much about the team. Ava just brings that spirit. She brings a lot of energy. She's also just a great communicator on the court, off the court as well. But her on-court presence, you can feel it, you can sense it, and she's just a great, great presence out there, a great teammate to everybody. Everybody seems to be uplifted by her spirit, both as a tennis player, also just in general. So she just brings so much to the table. So that combination of those two has been just been remarkable.
When you're making the lineup, everything, how do you kind of go about doing that? I mean, I know in squash they have like challenge matches and stuff. What do you do with tennis in terms of figuring out who's going to play 1 through 6, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sort of it's what I tell them is this. It's not set in stone. It's fluid. It's sort of who's competing, who's working hard, who's preparing well, who's hustling. All this, and then they will play sets off against each other. And so I rest assure them that, we want to make sure that you get enough sets in with everybody so that I can make informed decisions about that. And those decisions can also change from day to day and week to week and match to match. And we have a team that has going through some injuries right now. So I do believe that the whole team will get some playing time. It's going to be necessary. So it's all hands on deck and trying to get everybody to play at the same level and raise their level and use each other to help their level get a little bit better each and every day. But I think so all that combined, it's not really a formula. It's more just kind of a feeling as a coach. But you want to make sure that your players feel that they've been given all the chances possible to prove themselves.
Paul, how about your captains? You got 3 seniors who are all captains plus a junior as well, right?
Yeah, Teo is a junior, but he's always been, the leader the last few years in terms of level on the court and just being a great competitor and extremely talented athlete. But they all, the seniors, Ben and Vange and Eli, they're all heart. I mean, from day one, they'll leave everything on the court, and they worked extremely hard to improve their level over the last 3.5 years, and I can't be more proud of all of them.
Yeah, you mentioned Teo being, leader on the court. He was second team All-NESCAC last year in doubles. I believe he was partnered with Googe last year. And so he graduated. So who Teo working with now?
We've had him with Philippe Koscielny. We call him PK. It's easier. And we've had them together since the fall. And, PK has a monster serve, and so does Teo. But they just feed off each other's energy really well. And they had a strong performance at ITAs in the fall, losing a very close tiebreaker to one of the top seeds from Tufts. And so, yeah, they're good. And then we're kind of figuring out the rest, but we have a lot of good parts that we're just trying to tweak and figure out who's going to be the best mesh, and that's what Florida is all about. We get to try some different things.
How's the setup been going? Because obviously this is still new for the school year. We talked in the fall, but how's it going now in the spring with you only having to coach the men?
It's incredible. I mean, Deepak hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I trust him completely. He's doing an amazing job. I get to focus on one team. I still get to interact with the women, and they're amazing, and they've handled this transition really well. But it just gives both of us more time to plan, more time to focus, and I think our athletes feel it for sure.
Deepak, when at your other stops, do you have like a Florida trip like this, or is this kind of new for you?
Well, last year was the first year that we did it at my previous spot,
Yeah.
so I'm familiar with USTA and playing under the lights or playing at the USA National Campus. It's truly like a memorable experience, and it's something that is one of the great things about what we can offer our student athletes is this experience here, and to be able to do it for 7 days. We didn't do it for this long.
Right.
This is 7 days, 2 days a day. This is quite the experience. So this is going to be great for them, and so it's a really special time. It's a really special place, and this is to do it this early in the year too. I think it makes it really unique, and I think that's also really cool that we're able to go in February and not in March when it's a little bit overrun. Right now, where we can really go down there and have our time to train.
Yeah, I mean, you are playing obviously matches against some very good teams, but this is really a training trip, sort of, right, Paul?
Absolutely. You know, in years past, NESCAC didn't allow us to start until February 15th. So I remember going out to Cali in February break and literally have one practice and then play a team that was top 5 in the country in Pomona and have to do that on the second day of practice. And it's great experience and it's a great level. However, it can bite you in the end. And one year we played Redlands, that same format, you know, a second day of practice, and we lost a nail biter, 7-5 in the third or 7-6 in the third. I can't remember, but it was the deciding point, and that was their second day second day of practice.
Right.
And in the end, in the spring, when it came to Pool C selections for NCAAs, it was between us and Redlands, and guess who got the nod? Because that was our second day of practice. So I vowed then and there that, you know, I want to play really high-level teams, but I want to have an opportunity to get our feet wet before we hit the NESCAC schedule.
I know the men's tennis team has a number of first years. The women only have one, I think. But, I mean, tell me about how they're adjusting right now.
They're doing great. I can't remember. Well, I do remember. I think they graduated 2 years ago. We had a group of first years that hit the ground running the way this group has, and super high level, and bodes well for the future because they're pushing everyone around them. They're going to be impact players. Our sophomores as well are really tearing it up. So it's really cool to see the level continue to rise, and every day in practice we find a way to improve, and it's a testimony to how they came in ready and how prepared they were and ready to go and in shape, and we've been able to really focus on improving, and they've done a tremendous job.
And for the women's team, it's cool to have someone from right around the corner, right? Your only first year of Maya went to Everett Little High School.
Yeah, I love the fact that where I live is actually not too far from where her middle school is and stuff. So it's great to have a local. Yeah, Maya's doing great. I mean, look, she's going through some health stuff right now, but you know, she's always in our, you know, our minds and our hearts and stuff. So the team absolutely loves her, as do I, as does Paul, who has a history with the family and stuff. So we're always here to support her and guide her. And so we're excited for her future. We're excited even what she's going to be able to contribute to this spring. So, yeah, it's all good things ahead. Maya's been an amazing player to coach, and she's also been an amazing teammate. So she's fit right in. I think it's great to have that like local flavor as well. So, yeah, excited for Maya's future.
Yeah, Paul, you can kind of speak to that. It's fun to have when local players contribute because you were a local player who contributed back in the day.
Absolutely. It's always great. And we have Ben and Vange this year who are two main kids, and they're just the work ethic and just, you know, the spirit they bring and just the humility and just go to work every day. And those guys were walk-ons when they came in, and it's incredible the improvement they had over the last 3.5 years, and they're just playing lights-out tennis right now.
Excellent. Well, Deepak, I mean, just sort of to wrap things up a little bit, I mean, what's the number one thing you hope the team takes away from this experience going to Florida? Because for some, obviously, most of the team, they've done it before, but maybe not for this long of a trip. I'm not sure. But, I mean, tell me, number one thing you're looking for, you're hoping they gain from this experience.
Just to realize that they realize how good they are, how just to believe in, like, their abilities and how they're moving right now and how they're hitting and how they're seeing the ball, and it can translate into these matches and really take it to some of these schools and take it to some of these teams and be proud of each other and have pride in all their work ethic has been amazing to see and watch. And so they deserve this, and they deserve to play schools like this, and they deserve to beat the schools like this. So for them, it's just really kind of coming back with like this belief. And so I just want them to see them and push them and work them hard, but for them to really start believing how good that they can be.
How about for you, Paul?
Yeah, I always remind the team, you know, you have guys like Josh Allen who wasn't recruited, right? And he ends up being the MVP this year in NFL, and just the work ethic he had and the dedication. And it's not on paper. none of sport is on paper, and it's what you make of it every day and how you approach it and your belief system. And that belief system is bolstered by the work ethic and, you know what you've done all year long, and that translates into confidence. And like Deepak just said, like, we just want to go out and tear it up and see what we can do.
Tennis teams in Florida, February 19 through 21 for the matches, and some good training before then as well. You can check out GoBaseballCast.com. We'll have the recaps every day. Paul and Deepak, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast to preview the tennis seasons.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
The women's lacrosse team is in Pennsylvania to open their season against Haverford Wednesday at 4 p.m. We previewed their season on last week's episode with new head coach, Princess Zabel. This week, we're previewing the men's lacrosse team's season with their head coach, Dan Annino. The men's team is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on Wednesday to take on Franklin and Marshall at 4:30 p.m. Dan, first of all, I really thought last year, especially in the NESCAC, a lot of close games, a lot of games where you guys were right in it with some of the top teams in the country. What's kind of the next step in your view to, have some of those close ones, break through for some victories this season?
Yeah, great question, Aaron, and thanks for having me back on. Love the Bobcast. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We saw a lot of growth last year, and our team getting more competitive and finding ourselves in, situations where we have a chance to win it late. And we had a very young team last year, and what I know about young groups is the challenge is less so physical but mental late in the games. And what does our mental endurance look like? What is our ability to keep our attention to detail and execute on fundamental plays in the last 2 minutes? And I think we got a more mature group. I think we have a group that learned a lot of those lessons, because you got to learn how to win games in college lacrosse, and you got to learn how to win games in this league. And those teams that execute late are going to be the teams that pull it off more often than not. I think you see across the league a ton of 1-2 goal games, every single weekend. And it really comes down to, hey, the talent is going to get you in the mix. It's going to get you in the game, but your execution is going to be ultimately what decides the outcome. So we took a lot of those lessons away, and hopefully we take a similar jump from last year to this year that we did from the previous to last.
Yeah, you mentioned how young the team was. One of your top players, you're actually all NESCAC, Ben Conner, was only a first year last year. He's a sophomore now. On defense, defenders don't necessarily get a chance to put up the eye-catching stats that, offensive players might sometimes do. What made him so good right away as a rookie?
You're exactly right. Defensively, we typically don't, get to pride ourselves on stats quite as much, but Ben was a rare exception. He actually led the conference in caused turnovers per game last year, I believe. So, he had that to fall back to. And, he's a really, really special talent, an incredible athlete and a playmaker on the defensive side, which is so rare in the game these days, but he is that unicorn, and he is a special playmaker. But what has been really cool is to see his growth in becoming more of a complete defenseman. And being more than just a takeaway artist, but being a team defenseman, understanding kind of more of the mental game as he matures, which is funny to say about a sophomore, but we're seeing a mature sophomore there. And I think we have a group around him that's kind of maturing in our systems as well. So, we're excited about that group. We think we have a bunch of guys that can be playmakers, but Ben definitely stood out and got some recognition, deservedly so, last year.
Yeah, 2.23 caused turnovers per game. As you mentioned, tops in the NESCAC. We'll say on the defensive theme right now, I thought Andrew Tolan really had an impressive debut year. It's hard to be a first-year goalkeeper, and he was outstanding. He was one of our nominees, finalists for Rookie of the Year at the Catspies last season. So what made him so effective, and what's his next step also?
Yeah, no, another guy that took on a big role as a young guy last year, and another guy who had some accolades of his own. I think he led the conference in saves last year, and that is a little bit of a backhanded stat, because it means that he was seeing a lot of rubber. So certainly our goal defensively is to limit some of those shots and not ask quite as much of our goalkeepers as we did last year, but Andrew certainly kept us in a lot of those games and put us in those positions to play, in the final couple minutes. But again, a similar kind of theme has been it's just a guy who's learning the college game. What we would love to see is some more communication, some more organization coming from that goaltender position. That's something that is tough to ask as a first year. In a lot of ways, we asked Andrew to just focus on stopping the ball. Now we get to put a little bit more on our plate, and he can take a little bit more stake in organizing our defense and a little bit more stake in the performance of our team defense outside of just asking him to make 20 saves a game, which hopefully we're not asking him to do quite as much this year.
Keeping with the theme of the impact rookies you had last season at the faceoff spot, Miles Schmidt impressed. Out of the Pacific Northwest, I didn't even know they played I'm from Seattle. I didn't know they played lacrosse over there. You got some guys from the Northwest. Tell me about maybe the geographic, kind of diversity you're bringing in here from guys from all over the country, sort of, and Miles in particular, and a great year for him too, right?
Yeah, well, we got a great little pipeline to the Pacific Northwest with a few guys out of Seattle. We got Drew Nias out of Oregon and some guys from Northern California. So we got a great pipeline there, and that's just a testament to Bates. I mean, we're talking about a national brand. We can call anyone from all four corners of North America, and that Bates brand makes an impact, and people know what this place is, or at least know the reputation, and that opens the door. And that's one of the great things about this program and this place, and why I'm so privileged to be in this role, is there's no phone that we can't pick up and call and get a conversation going, because the brands and the prestige of Bates is what it is. So we got a really good geographic distribution. We got guys from Georgia, we got guys from San Diego, we got guys from the Pacific Northwest, like you said, and then guys from here in our backyard. So we got all four corners of the country covered for sure.
And then in terms of face-offs, the face-off is interesting because it's not just the guy, doing the face-off. It's the guys around him also that's key to winning them. What have you seen from your face-off group?
Yeah, well, I think again, guys like Miles had a great year last year. I think another guy, we're gonna see a better version of him. I think he's invested himself in his body and his fitness, and in a way as he learned again what it takes to win at the college level. So I think we're seeing a more dynamic athlete at the stripe, which is going to help us. But those possessions, like you said, are absolutely won as a unit. And I look at our LSM group as big wing players for us. Ben Miller, who's a senior LSM, he's been playing at an extraordinarily high level. I think he's a guy that should be competing for all conference consideration at the end of the year. Drew McClutchy, a sophomore, another guy who played a big role for us last year. Those guys play a big part, and then really the engine of our team, which is our transition midfield unit, led by guys like Cooper Lance, who I think is one of the best in the business, and we'll see some fresh faces in that group too. So we're excited about the athletes. We're excited about the playmakers we have across the faceoff stripe this year.
Great. Now let's move up the field of the attackers. I mean, what a debut last year for Gray Doyle. In his very first collegiate game, he had 3 goals and 6 assists and just continued the goal scoring, dishing out assists. Last year ended up with 24 goals to lead the team, 18 assists, 42 total points. To have a rookie lead you in goal scoring, what does he bring to the table? And then with Will Masterson, graduating, who are some players who you're looking to step up to also score some goals this year?
Gray, I think he's a competitor through and through, and he doesn't care about how it looks necessarily. He's about getting it done, and he's a gamer. He's not afraid to stick his nose in it. He's not afraid to take some licks, and he led us in a lot of ways on that offensive end. Our hope is to share the wealth, I think, a little bit more. I think that's going to make Gray better, but I think we got a full group of guys. And as you talk about having to replace, some big shoes, between Will Masterson, Jake Johnson, Alex Horowitz, some of the guys that graduated, there's not one guy that's going to step into those shoes. We need 2, 4, 6, 8 guys to step into those shoes. But, I think guys like Connor Hartman are poised for a great year. Denzel Evans being fully healthy and he's poised for a great year. And a couple of upperclassmen leaders there. Riley McClure has been playing at a really high level and coming off of a great freshman year. And then some young guys that we expect to hopefully make some contributions. And I think we have a handful of guys that have an opportunity to earn some time, and we'll find the combinations as we move forward that make the car faster. And that's the goal. We don't want to have it all falling on one guy's shoulders. we want each guy to make the guy to the left and the guy to the right more dangerous.
You mentioned Denzel. He and Colton Curtis are two captains this year. Tell us about them, what makes them such strong leaders.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a tremendous job. Denzel was a captain for us last year as a junior, even coming off of an ACL injury as a sophomore. I think he really grew, in his servant leadership. And he's been serving this team for a long time. He's a guy that, everyone is looking towards. And then Colton has been a leader on our defense, going back to probably his sophomore year at the very least. And he's grown and refined his abilities as a leader. I think he's found ways to be a connector and make connections across our team. And those guys have done a tremendous job. But for all the work that they've done, they're put in the positions to do the good work that they do because, Aaron, we have phenomenal secondary leadership, and that's across the board. It's certainly across our senior class. Some names we've already said: Ben Miller, Cooper Lance, Luke Heafy, Javi Werner, a ton of guys stepping up and leading there, but all the way down through our roster, between Connor Hartman or Jacob Kajababian or Liam Rule or Gray or Drew McClutchy, you go all the way down our roster, and we really feel like we have 360 degrees of leadership, and that's what allows for the organization to operate the way it needs to. We can't just rely on two guys to do it. Though if we had to, I do think we got two pretty good guys in that role.
It's interesting with lacrosse, you have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, almost like football terminology. Tell us about your two assistants who will be running those particular units this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew Smithstad is our offensive coordinator. He's been with us for the last 3 years, and he's continued to grow that unit. I think you see the growth year over year, year one to year two. I think we're going to see another jump in that group in year three, and developing our skill set, developing our decision making. He's done a tremendous job there, and I think we're going to be a pretty fun offense to watch this year, we hope. And then Salah Area joined our staff this year, and he's been a tremendous addition, an incredible college career starting at Vermont. And, he's focused a lot on skill development on the offensive end of the ball, especially with our midfield group and our offensive midfield group, being as that was his position. But he's also done a tremendous job with kind of our specialty units, our face-off unit, and getting Miles and Graham Ray and Finn Gibbons our first year, getting those guys up to speed, getting them coordinating with our wing play, and then also helping kind of coordinate our middle third between our ride and our clear, and things that are really pivotal for us in terms of success and in terms of turning those close games into wins. We look at our riding percentage, our clearing percentage; those things probably correlate most closely to the win column.
Terrific. Well, any other thoughts you want to mention about the upcoming season? Anything you want to say you're particularly looking forward to, I guess, this year we haven't talked about yet?
I just think we're excited to play a great schedule once again. We're really excited to open up on Wednesday down at Franklin and Marshall, an incredibly talented team, an incredibly skilled team. They got in the win column in their opening game this weekend and looked really impressive. So, we're excited to go down and test ourselves there as we're going to continue to be tested throughout the year. The beautiful thing about playing in this league and playing the schedule we do is, we play against the best week in and week out. So we're really excited to see, kind of our growth. And if we're able to turn some of those close games into close wins, turn some of the wins into big wins, and make another step forward. So we're incredibly optimistic. We're excited to be kicking things off, and we're incredibly proud of the work that our team has put in this offseason to make that a possibility.
Bobcats at Franklin and Marshall this Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Then at Emerson next Wednesday, the 26th at 6 o'clock. Home opener Saturday, March 1st, and the NESCAC opener at 1 o'clock against Hamilton. Dan and Annino, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Baseball season is here as well. The Bates baseball team is in Virginia this week for a 3-game series with Ferrum, alma mater of Hall of Famer Billy Wagner. First pitch of the series opener is set for Thursday at 3 p.m., and we chat with head coach John Martin about his squad.
We're excited to start our season at Ferrum College in Virginia. Not normally an opponent that we play often, but they were looking for a 3-game series, and so were we on the same weekend. So we decided to put it together and make it happen. Historically, a very good program. Has definitely put out some former big leaguers. Obviously, Billy Wagner, who just was voted into the Hall of Fame. Always been a strong program, gritty, tough team. They'll be very well coached. They have a nice facility. Hopefully the weather will hold out, and we should have a pretty good trip. So we're excited to get the 2025 season started.
Always the key, right? The weather. And speaking of that, we got new turf at Leahy Field. I saw you guys out there a few days ago. So you're able to practice despite, some snow we've had and everything. So how excited is the team to have that turf infield?
It's made a world of difference already, and I think it definitely will continuing forward. We're able to get out earlier in the season. I mean, our first day of practice for this season, we were outside. So that's definitely never happened as long as I've been here. I don't know if it's ever happened in our program's history, to be honest with you. So definitely makes a difference. Gives good energy to the team. We can work on a lot of things. Obviously, there's no more dirt, so that means no more mud. We can get the field ready quickly after a rainstorm or remove the snow off of it quickly and get out there as long as the temperatures hold up. So it's definitely a game changer. We're excited. We're appreciative of it, and we can't wait to get the full season going once we get back.
I know you're very excited about the depth of your pitching staff this year. Take us through, because you do lose 2 starters to graduation in the rotation, but take us through the depth of this pitching rotation.
We did. We lost a couple starters, but we definitely have, what I think is a very deep staff. I think we're talented. I like where we've gone so far. We've definitely increased our strike percentage from the first practice on, so we're throwing a lot of strikes and challenging hitters, which is definitely what we want to do. Our seniors, we've got Ian McCaslin, Matthew Shrake, Micah Sheets, David Miller, Chris McGrail, and Joe Bianchi. All of them are obviously veteran pitchers. They know what we're out to accomplish. They're familiar with the challenges we have ahead of us. And all of them have really done a great job in leading this staff so far this season. We also have in the junior class, we have John Tully and Max Dio, hard-throwing right-handers. We're expecting big things out of them. Tully had a great summer pitching in Syracuse in the NYCBL, and then he finished in Keene for the Swamp Bats in the NECBL. So he's definitely progressed the way we want him to. Nolan Hobbs, Theo Zachariah, Kenny Carlisle, and Diego Sarabia, all of them should log significant innings this year. They've all looked really good. They've gotten in the zone with their fastball first and foremost, and then their off speed has come along as well, so they're doing a great job. And then as far as our freshman class goes, we've got Charlie Cariello, Charlie Bushley, our double Charlie there, Henry Kalani, and Nolan Bibbo, who all have done a great job. They are all competitive arms that have definitely come in and shown us that they can compete at this level, and we're excited to see what all of them are going to bring us this year.
You mentioned Diego. He's the one who was in the rotation last year in his first year of college baseball, and I thought showed a lot of potential. What's kind of the next step for him in particular? Because I thought, he threw hard and he had some dominant outings, and it just seems like, maybe a little bit deeper into the games. I'm not sure what your thoughts on, what his potential is.
Yeah, I think Diego's upside is limitless. I mean, to be honest with you, I saw that from him when I first started recruiting him out of high school, and he throws hard, good slider, good off speed. His whole thing, and he knows it, is just staying in the strike zone and having a competitive edge. And as long as he does that, his stuff will play, and he'll be fine. I mean, he's definitely worked hard this off season. I think he's built his body up really well, and he's strong and much more physical than he was a year ago, and I think, the sky's the limit for him, and we're excited to see what he does this coming season. He'll definitely start a game early in the season for us, and we're going to throw him right out there and get him going, and I know he'll do a great job.
Tell us about your team captains, Brendan Kelly and Brandon Begane.
Yeah, BK and Brandon they're just first-class guys. They're good leaders. They communicate well, good heads on their shoulders. They're very down-to-earth. They both love baseball. They love this program. They love Bates. They represent Bates well. It was pretty obvious that these two guys were at the forefront of who we wanted to kind of keep us going in the right direction this year. So we're excited for their leadership when the season gets going here in a couple days, and they've done a great job so far. And I expect them to continue moving us in the right direction.
Begane was All-State last year. Has some good power, doesn't he?
He does. He's a good hitter. He knows that. He's also a versatile player. He can play in the outfield and can catch as well. But, he knows that we want him to anchor the middle of our lineup and be a competitor at the plate for us. So definitely a pure hitter, always has been. We expect a lot out of him, but we know he can deliver, and he's very confident in his ability. So there's no question that he's got a big season ahead of him.
I wanted to ask you about, Keegan Ryan out there in center field, a guy who, got on base a lot last year for you, stole a lot of bases. Seemed like he can do a little bit of everything, can't he?
Keegan is a very good player. He's a good defensive player, runs really well, gets some great jumps in the outfield, is not scared to lay out for a ball in the gap and can make that play. He's also a fierce base runner. I mean, he's a threat on the bases every time he gets on there, and he's always looking to advance. And for him, he just needs to get on base, and that's kind of should be his approach at the plate, is just do whatever you got to do to get on base, and then hopefully get from first to second to third and 2 or 3 pitches, man, after that, and get moving. So good runner. We also have Jack Margoloff, who's an outfielder, very good runner. Good hitter, and another guy that we just need on base. And also, another outfielder that we have is senior Ben Jesmondi, good runner, strong arm, definitely a guy that, we're expecting to come in and help us out as well.
Now, the infield, you have to replace your entire left side of the infield, and one of whom, Jack Brennan's playing the Division I level now. That's really cool to see, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're proud of Jack. Great player, had a great career here at Bates. I'm not surprised at all that he's at that level and succeeding. Hard worker, loves the game. There's no doubt about it that he's done things the right way to get there. So, but yeah, it's hard to replace a guy like that, but I think we can do it. I think we've got some good talent in our infield. Obviously, seniors coming back. We got Ben Genzer, who had a great year at the plate last year. I expect him to continue in that trend as well. Good infielder, good player. We're expecting good things out of him. Joe Yoxel, Gibby Sullivan. We'll probably move. Gibby was in the outfield a lot last year, but we can put him in the outfield if we need to this year. But he'll also be in the infield as well. And then we got some young infielders. First year, Tyler Tucker from New Jersey, good player. Can play the corner position well. John Federico, another first year from New Hampshire, good player. Definitely athletic, can play shortstop, third base. So we're looking to see what those guys can do, and I have no doubt that we'll get them out there early and see what they're capable of doing.
Well, Genzer, you mentioned hit over 350 last year. Had a few doubles, a home run against Bowdoin. I mean, what was the key to his offensive breakout?
He's just a guy that doesn't really stress about much and kind of gets into the box and sees the ball and hits the ball. That's kind of his thing. He's also really tough to strike out. He doesn't strike out often at all, so he's got a good 2-strike approach. And he's all about putting the bat on the ball and putting the ball in play. And for a little guy, he's got some pop in his bat. He can drive it. So he's a tough out at the plate. There's no doubt about it. So we're looking forward to him getting back out there and showing us what he can do this year.
Excellent. What are your thoughts you want to mention on the upcoming season we haven't even talked about yet?
I think some other names, some guys to look out for. David Swift, who is a corner outfield first baseman, right-handed hitter, has shown a lot of potential, a lot of pop in his bat. We're looking for him to help us out this year. Max Dushney, who is a freshman or first-year catcher, good player, has definitely done a good job. Liam Yardley will be back behind the dish as well. Great defensive catcher. We're looking forward to him getting back there and doing his thing. So we've got a great culture on this team. We've got a very tight bond as a team. We're looking forward to getting on the plane tomorrow morning early and getting out of here and heading down to Virginia and get the season started. So here we go.
All right, John Martin, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Go Bobcats.
We conclude this week's episode of the Bobcast by taking a trip to Austria, where Bates men's alpine skiing senior captain Nic Hotermans represented Belgium, and by extension Bates, on the international stage last week when he competed in the World Alpine Skiing Championships. He was able to qualify for the championship race in the slalom, getting an opportunity to ski in front of 20,000 people in attendance, and many, many more watching on television. When he returned to campus, Hotermans stopped by to talk about this amazing experience and his hopes of qualifying for the 2026 Olympic Games. Well, Nick, obviously a very exciting experience for you competing on the world stage at the Alpine Skiing World Championships. I mean, over in Austria. Take us through the experience. What was it like being on that international stage?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly incredible seeing the top talent. All of my college roommates, we watch them every day, every time they have a race. So it was actually crazy being actually at that race and seeing those top guys perform and seeing what what their day-to-day looks like, what they do to prepare for a run, what they actually look like, though, visibly in person was crazy.
And very scenic there in Austria. You sent us a photo we put on Instagram of you up at the top of the hill there. Where were you?
That was actually at the top of the slalom qualifying race, and that was a beautiful morning, as you saw. That was like 7:30 or 8 in the morning right before inspection.
How does the mountain there compare to what we do here at Bates and Sunday River and all the other places you ski on the EISA circuit?
Yeah, I mean, so the qualification hill and the actual World Cup hill were different,
Okay.
on different hills. So the qualification hill was honestly pretty similar to what we have going on in the east here, and it was honestly pretty similar to Sunday River in terms of the slope, not too steep and pretty easy gradient and a little roll, but not too bad. And then the World Cup was definitely a lot more legit. It was way steeper, but what really made the difference was they were watering the hill every night with hoses so that it would have like the perfect icy conditions that all the World Cup skiers want to ski on. So that was the big difference there.
So you're able to qualify, but then you have to race the next day in the slalom on a different hill after qualifying.
Yes.
How intimidating was that? 'Cause you didn't get to train on that hill, right?
Yeah, not at all. Because they alternated between the women's and the men's slalom. So while I wish we were qualifying on that World Cup hill, but we were actually the women were racing their real race.
Sure.
So yeah.
And so the qualifier, you knew you had to get what, top how many?
Yeah, we had to get top 25. Everyone in the top 25 in that qualifier moved on to the next round. And so I started with bib 35 at that race. So that really meant for me that I had to, really push it because all those guys are ranked way lower in points and are ranked significantly better than I am. So, it's a little intimidating at first, showing up there. You're like, okay, I have 2 guaranteed races, the GS qualifier and the slalom qualifier. The rest is really up to me, and I have to, push it and get into that top 25 to make it.
They're both 2 runs?
Yep, both 2 runs.
Okay, so you got your first run, the slalom qualifier, goes well.
Yeah, I go from, I think, 35 to 15th, which was, a massive, sigh of relief. And I was a bit nervous, definitely, for this one because, the GS, I had a really good run going and unfortunately leaned in, and so I crashed. So, that was one of the GS qualifiers, so I was super bummed about that. But, I knew I was here I needed to qualify, and to get top 25 at these races isn't an easy task. So this is the mentality I've been going with all season, and it's been, I'd way rather give it my all and unfortunately crash than to ski it all right. And then I'm in the same position. I'm in like 30th or 35th, and then I go home and do nothing.
So your first run goes well. How long do you have to wait around before you get the all-important second run on that qualifier?
That second run, it took... So I ran 35th. Then you have to wait for the 120 participants to actually go. So that's another hour at least. And then they have to take down the course, put up a new course. You have to inspect that course, and then the top 30 run first. So I ran right in the middle of that. So I think first run started at, if I'm not mistaken, 9:30. So I ran probably 9:45, and then second run I started like 1:30.
In terms of the atmosphere, the environment, how does it compare to, an EISA carnival? Is it just like, oh man, this makes the carnival seem like small potatoes, or is it similar?
It was definitely way more serious
Yeah.
than carnival. The overall atmosphere at a carnival is awesome. You see all your friends you've grown up with skiing. Yeah. We've known these guys for the last 4 years, but here it's people that this is their full-time commitment, like full-time job, like full-time. This is what they want to be doing in the future. This is second to the Olympics. And so qualifying for the World Skis Championships, that's a big deal. Like people want to be going to that. So it was definitely, pressure was high, nerves were high, and yeah.
Was there anyone else from the EISA circuit there?
Yes, actually. There was two guys from Britain. Callum Langmuir and Dominic Shackleton, one skiing for Middlebury and one skiing for Dartmouth.
Gotcha. Was it cool to see them?
Yeah, it was cool to see them. I saw, I saw him first, Dominic Shackleton over just free skiing, and I saw a Middlebury Jack, and I was like, oh, look at that, perfect.
Excellent. Good familiar faces. And then, you were representing Belgium. You were
Yep.
born in Belgium.
Yep.
But you didn't live there very long.
No, so I left Belgium when I was 3 due to my parents' work, but every summer since then, I don't think I've missed a single summer actually. I've gone back to visit family. My entire extended family is still there and my grandparents are still there, so I'm always happy to come by and see them. And I do train indoors there often too, and just an hour away from where my grandparents live, so I do that pretty often.
So with a lot of your family still in Europe, did they all get a chance to come watch you?
No, well, they were watching on TV on Eurosport, but
okay, on Eurosport, okay,
but they weren't there in person, unfortunately, just because my grandpa and grandmas are now like 87 and 85, so
yeah. In order to watch skiing in person, it takes you have to be able to stay out there in the freezing cold for
exactly.
while.
And it was packed too. It was at least 20,000 people over on the stands, and on top of especially the slalom day on that Sunday, people were just waiting on the side of the hill just watching. It was incredible.
Yeah, to have such a huge audience, what's that like?
Yeah. Honestly, it was the first time I've ever skied with that many people watching. I think the most amount would probably be like 200 or 300 from the Middlebury Carnival, but this was definitely a new game for me. Out of the start, you don't see the start until you are in the gate and you have 30 seconds to go, and you just see the entire stand, the 20,000 people just watching you, and you can hear them like roaring for the people that are finishing right away. So it was it was definitely, I wouldn't say intimidating, because at that point you're like, okay, I deserve to be here. I qualified for this event. I know what I'm doing, but it was like, this is exciting. Like, this is awesome.
So looking back to leading up to this event, was there a phone call? When did you find out you were going?
Yeah, so I knew I was definitely in the running beginning of December. That's when I got the email, and I was asked what events I would, potentially participate in. Obviously, I said the slalom and giant slalom, but I didn't actually know until the first week of January, and that's when I had to. And I was selected as one of the top 4 Belgian racers, and so that's when I had to, book all my flights. Luckily, the Belgian Ski Federation, thank you to them, they booked all our lodging for this World Ski Championships and took care of all the accommodations, so that was amazing.
So was it a phone call or an email?
No, it was an email.
Another email? Okay,
it was an
congratulations, email. Or what was it?
Yeah, it was like a congratulations, you've been selected for the slalom and giant slalom qualification events, and then you're on your own for doing the actual big deal event.
Yeah. And you're one of 4 people from Belgium who qualified.
Yep.
Are you friends with the other 3? Do you know the other 3 even?
Yeah, so one of them is 2005, so I was actually pretty close with him last season and talked with him a bunch. And then Sam Mace, who's a 97, I think. I met him a bunch in the Belgian national championships that we have to do to make criteria for the team. He was there, and he's always been a great guy and always been super happy to help out in any way. It was awesome. And then it was my first time meeting, actually, the top slalom guy, Armand Marchand, who was also really there and was like a mentor to us over there.
Terrific. So they're quite a bit older than you.
Yeah. Yeah. Those 2 guys are doing this full time since they just got out of high school, and they're both top 30 in the world in slalom or giant slalom. So they're really, really good.
As a younger skier, what are you kind of learning from them, sort of?
Yeah, it's just looking at it and seeing what their routine is, how seriously they take their nutrition, how seriously they take their body in warm-ups, and just in general. I think it was a crazy shift in atmosphere over there too, because like we were saying earlier, that change of pressure, everyone's here to compete and everyone's here to actually qualify for the real event. And it was crazy to see that shift in perspective of, no, if I mess up, I'm done. I can't half-ass this. I can't do any of that. I can't have a mistake. I need to go full at it and then trust myself.
Yeah, well, I hate to ask, but in the actual event, it looks like you didn't finish the first run.
Yes.
So what happened?
So that was a tough one. So the set was actually pretty normal, very normal. Just that those icy conditions were definitely in play.
Yeah.
But it was a little softer than people would have thought. So yes, they watered it down, but they still had a 2-footed groove. I was running 77, so 76 other people skied it before me.
Sure, yeah.
So if you miss that 2-footed groove and you get stuck and get bounced low inside, then you're still stuck with that full watered down slope, and that's what happened to me, unfortunately. And I ended up recovering it, but then that was my 6th day in a row skiing, which is very taxing, and then I ended up not recovering the second mistake, unfortunately.
Gotcha. And so, the Olympics are a year from today, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, a year from this month.
A year from this month.
A year from this month. They're in Italy. We talked a little bit off air about this, but obviously you have Olympic aspirations, right? What are your thoughts on what's going to take to qualify? I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say what exactly it's going to take because it depends heavily on what the top 2 guys from Belgium are doing. If they stay in the top 30, that definitely opens up potentially another spot. To me, honestly, I don't necessarily want to think about too much that aspect of it. It's more so me getting better. It's more so like, what can I do in my control that I can activate today that gets me a shot that's closer than it was yesterday.
So if a country has 2 people in the top 30, they then get a bonus, basically.
Yeah, so every person that's ranked in the top 30 don't take up a spot for their country. Mm-hmm. So automatically you get 1 and 1 guy, 1 girl, to go participate over there, and then every person that's in the top 30 doesn't count as a spot.
Gotcha. So you got to focus on yourself, but you also want your teammates to stay in that top 30. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Are you back in action for the Bobcats this weekend, New Hampshire?
Oh, yeah. We're back at UNH. I mean, got off the plane last night, so, we're hopefully rested up. Going to be rested up the next couple of days. I think I'm going to take the next 2 days off and then start, the last one, which is crazy. The UNH Carnival. During my PG year, I took a year at Holderness, and so that was my home hill for a while. So, no, I'm excited for that.
A big opportunity, certainly, and it's interesting how these college races, because they're 5th races as well, it will factor into.
Absolutely, yeah. Every single one of these races that we do does matter for the Olympic criteria and all that. It's basically how close you can get to the leader or become the leader and lower your world rank position.
Great. Well, any thoughts you want to share about this experience of competing at the World Ski Championships we haven't got to talk about yet?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you also to, Kurt, my coach, for letting this happen, because I know it was a tough decision. I don't think it was actually that tough of a decision for him, but he was, he jumped at the opportunity to say, yeah, absolutely go for it. And it was definitely hard not being there with the team this week, especially being the second to last one of the year for carnivals. And then, it was great having my parents out there too, and my brother. I think my brother was my biggest supporter out there too. And he was actually telling me that he was more nervous. That was the most nervous he's ever been that started the slalom race, because, he's coming a long way, going a long way out there for the GS qualification, not finish that one, and then, have it be, here we go, the slalom, and you got to go. So, and then also want to say thank you to all the teammates too that I appreciated, all the kind words about. And I also want to say thank you to Kyle, my co-captain. He sent me a text at like 4:30 in the morning. Hey man, after me not finishing, hey, it must have been an unreal experience. Like, it was great watching you, and congratulations. That was amazing. That's also one thing I'll take forever too. Although I didn't finish the event, I probably signed like 15 or 20 kids' jackets and helmets, and that was definitely a plus of the experience.
That's terrific. Well, Nic Hotermans representing Belgium and Bates at the 5th Alpine World Ski Championships this past Thursday through Sunday there in Austria. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast, and congrats again.
Thank you so much.
It's February break for Bates students, but it's an extremely busy time of year for Bates sports. The Bobcats are all over the country this week, and you can track all their success at GoBatesBobcats.com. Plus, we'll be recapping it all next time on the Bates Bobcast.